Hey guys, what's up? More black sheep! Yeah, more black sheep. Here I am once again with 10 more games that are the black sheep of their respective families. I saved these 10 for last because they are somewhat like less obvious choices, but they're black sheep through and through. As usual, I'm not covering any only in Japan titles, no Final Fantasy titles, no Kingdom Hearts titles either. Couple of honorable mentions here, though. That's right. Anyway, let's begin. Number 10. Summon Night Tweenage. The Summon Night series is still a very unknown franchise, but I'm glad it has gained more popularity nowadays with their latest releases. The only ones out of the main series that have been localized outside Japan are Summon Night 5 for the PSP and 6 for the PS4 and PS Vita. Summon Night Tweenage on the DS is a spin-off, quite interesting for its time, mixing real-time strategy with action more than anything else. Sadly, its battle mechanics revolve around using the stylus all the time for pretty much anything. Even moving your characters from point A to point B requires this feature. This can be a total bummer for some players, like me for example, who just don't want to play RPGs, especially action RPGs, with the damn pen ravaging the screen. It wasn't a total screw-up from the developers since I'm pretty sure a lot of people enjoyed it. Nevertheless, mixed reviews were given because of that, and I certainly agree with all of them. It might not be a bad game at all, but it's not something I can recommend to anyone, easily becoming the black sheep of this underrated family. Number 9. God's Eater Burst. When this game came out, nobody knew about it. The main reason was because the original game, simply called God Eater, was never localized. God's Eater Burst is an enhanced version of that game, and when it was released, like I said before, it went under a lot of people's radars. That is until the sequel and the anime were both released in 2015 when the franchise gained a lot of popularity. I'm glad this game was remastered for the PS4, even if it was digital only, since that made it much more playable and enjoyable. Burst on the PSP, however, is a damn mess. Utterly destroyed by its clunky controls and terrible camera movements. It's cool to see it was technically the start of a new series with a lot of potential, but with a very rough start that could have used a much better development. In my opinion, it's one of the worst action RPGs on the PSP, so I'm happy to see its remaster was much better. Number 8. Alondra II. I know it's ironic to name a black sheep in a franchise with just 2 games, but considering this title almost literally killed a good series with a lot of potential, it just had to be on the list. In my video about what the hell happened to Alondra, I specified this game wasn't nowhere near as bad as many reviewers have claimed it to be, but that's just my opinion. Alondra II is still quite nice, far from being similar to its unique, dark and tremendously difficult predecessor, but still a fun experience to play. It works mostly as a comedy, with gameplay being now full 3D in a hack-and-slash battle system that can be clunky sometimes. Being very different from the first Alondra was its only main problem, but I can clearly see other defects it had, like some glitches, some difficulty spikes, and some camera problems. Not a bad game at all, but it truly is inferior in many aspects to the original game or many other action RPGs of the same era. Number 7. Revelations: The Demon Slayer. Also known as Megami Tensei Gaiden, Last Bible, or simply as Last Bible like many people call it. Out of the entirely gigantic franchise that is Megami Tensei, there had to be a few black sheep here and there, but when it comes to games that were localized outside Japan, this Demon Slayer title is the least known precisely because it is the black sheep of the family. It was first released on the Game Boy and the Game Gear at the early 90s, but only in Japan. It wasn't until almost the end of the millennium that North America got it for the Game Boy Color. It plays very similar to any other turn-based Megami Tensei game, but instead of demons, you recruit monsters as called by the localization team. It's supposed to be an approach for kids into the franchise, although that doesn't mean it's a great entry for them. Again, it's not a bad game, and I can say a few things in its favor, but none that will take away the Black Sheep title. It can be kind of boring, repetitive, and considering it's a game developed for children, definitely not a bad game at all. It's also the only one of the entire sub-series of Last Bible titles to ever be localized. Number 6. Drakengard II. I've stood up before once for this game and I said it was far from being bad. It's no masterpiece, that's for sure, but Drakengard 2 gave a somewhat different approach to the overly dark theme the first game was known for. It was still action-focused with its hack-and-slash elements based similar to a Musou game like the Dynasty Warrior series. Once more, you had aerial missions that always remind me of the Panzer Dragoon games for some reason. RPG elements are there, not as strong as in other titles of the series, but still very present. The only problem this game had, and the main reason why most people consider this as the black sheep of the Drakengard and Nier franchise, is that it was the only where Yoko Taro, the original creator and writer of every other game, was barely involved. Apparently, he was only a video editor of this, but the main development and ideas belong to the now defunct company Cavia. It really is a solid game, one you should definitely check out, just don't expect to see any Yoko Taro style on it, that's all. Number 5. Shining Soul. I know Shining Wisdom on the Sega Saturn is a little bit more deserving of the Black Sheep title of this gigantic Shining series, but I've never played it. Shining Soul on the Game Boy Advance is, however, a game that I did play and also yet another big black sheep in the family. Many will argue that pretty much everything after Shining Force 3 is black sheep, but I think Soul is by far the most deserving of the title, considering it was supposed to be a reboot of the series. Now, with a different developer behind it, turned into a lame-ass action RPG. This is one of the most mediocre games I've ever played, one that bored me to pieces when I first played it. Fortunately, there was a sequel that was better, enjoyable, playable, and likable, but the first one was an inexcusable wreck that changed the series for the bad. Its uninspiring mechanics, poorly designed battle system, and quest-driven features, awful plots are, without a doubt, enough reason to call it a black sheep. Number 4. DISGAEA 3. This is a game that I barely played, so I probably shouldn't be talking about it, but as the black sheep of the DISGAEA series, I wasn't just gonna leave it out of the list. Not sure if the problems surrounding it are legit, but when I played it, I realized only one thing out of place, and that was the fact that it takes place in a school. I guess that extremely overdone topic bothered a lot of people. Since it's a complete joke and kind of a satire against it, I paid it no mind and enjoyed what little I played anyway. DISGAEA 3 might be slightly different in terms of story to the other titles in the series, but gameplay-wise, it's just about the same. A strategy RPG where you fight with your plot protagonists and also recruit generic characters, you can still do everything you normally do in any DISGAEA game within its isometric views. It also introduced a few new features like the magic change or the weapon proficiency. I really see no issue at all with this game that can deem it as a black sheep, but I guess there just had to be one. Number 3. Valkyrie Profile Covenant of the Plume. I'm sure many of you will claim this mobile garbage is the true black sheep of the family, but since I don't cover phone games and I don't really see it as a Valkyrie Profile game, especially considering that Tri-Ace didn't develop it, it doesn't count. The true black sheep of the true series is Covenant of the Plume on the Nintendo DS. This game and I go way back, and I have a long history of videos together in this channel. A strategy RPG vastly different than its two predecessors on the PlayStation 2 and 1. It's infamously known for being totally unforgiving in its difficulty. One mechanic that defines its brutal atmosphere is the sacrifice of one of your allies per chapter in order to properly move on or even have a chance against the rambunctious enemies. That pissed off and turned away a lot of people. I have no idea how I managed to play this game until the end, where I finally quit because I couldn't get past the last maps. Now don't take me wrong, this is a great game, and I have a love-hate relationship with it, but it definitely deserves the title of Black Sheep for being such a huge pain in the ass. Number 2. Dark Souls 2. This game and Drakengard 2 share one big similarity. And it's not that they belong to a dark-themed franchise and wanted to be different, nope. It's that they lack the figure, the soul of their original creator. In Dark Souls 2, that figure was Hidetaka Miyazaki. Only game in the entire Soulsborne franchise where he wasn't involved. Well, this action RPG obviously felt quite different because of that, and it left fans wondering what the hell had happened during its development. It played very much like its predecessors, but its difficulty spikes were outrageously tedious instead of challenging. To be honest with you, I'm not a fan one bit of any of the Souls games, so my experience with this title was kept to a minimum. However, I can clearly understand its criticism since my own small playthrough led me to the same feelings. Dark Souls 2 was still a critically acclaimed game, and in no way is it bad, just somehow different from the others and with a touch of development perks. Number 1. Adler Theories, The Alchemist and the Mysterious Journey, or ATELIER Theories. This is the second entry in the Mysterious trilogy on the PS4, PS Vita and PC. FIRIS is a game that many people trashed, and I always wonder why, since by the trailers, it looked just like any other Atelier game. Then I played the Vita version and understood everything. First, I'd like to say it's not a bad game, and I'm not sure it deserves the title of Black Sheep. That might as well be for Atelier Iris 3 on the PS2, but I've never played that game so I can't talk about it. FIRIS, unlike all of the other games in the franchise, starts off really slow, with uninspiring graphics, in this gloomy town inside a mountain, and a really boring protagonist. It takes a while to get used to it, especially with the horrible lag it has when you move the camera at some parts. Oh, I hated that, although I'm not sure if it's only on the Vita version. After around 2 hours, perhaps more, you finally get a gist of the battle system, turn-based as all the other Atelier games. Nothing special. It really ends up being just like any other title in the series, and I see absolutely nothing wrong with it except for two things. The lack of a colorful and charismatic environment any other Atelier game has, and a really slow-paced beginning. Other than that, it's an Atelier through and through, so definitely check it out. And you were wondering, what game is this? That is Ys 3 of the Ys series. That is what I think might be the black sheep of the Ys family. Anyway, that's it for this video. I'm not sure I'm gonna be making more of these videos in the near future. Maybe someday there'll be a part 4. But for now, I'm done with Black Sheep in JRPGs. Can't promise anything, so I guess I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe, share this video with your friends, and once again, I will see you later.